Interviews?
Today, yeah.
Oh, today I think this is number 4, but overall for the film, it's been quite a few.
It was going to be a long day of press interviews for Canadian filmmaker Barry Avrich and his Toronto based producer Mark Selby, as the duo drummed up even more buzz for their award winning documentary, The Road Between Us, just ahead of its theatrical release today, Friday, October 3rd. Their film will be playing for a week in 20 multiplexes across Canada and in many more in the States. The documentary tells the gripping story of a retired Israeli general and his wife who, on October 7th, leapt into action to rescue their kids and granddaughters who were trapped in a safe room at kibbutz Nahal Oz, located just about a half a kilometer from the Gaza border. The kibbutz was among the initial targets in the attack by Hamas during the deadliest day for Israel and Jews since the Holocaust. While the Tibon family's story was already somewhat known before Avrich and his team convinced them to let him bring his cameras to Israel to make a documentary about them, what with the general going on 60 Minutes and the son he saved writing a book about the day, the film, getting temporarily banned from its world premiere in September by the Toronto International Film Festival, catapulted the film's profile and the story onto the front pages, embarrassing the festival as the entertainment industry and the Jewish community launched accusations of censorship and pushed back against anti-Israel boycotts in the art world. In a bit of poetic justice, the film went on to win the People's Choice Award for the category at the festival, which helps Avrich and his team move forward from the controversy and try to secure wider distribution for the film. And while Avrich continues to describe the film as not political, just a story of one family's courage and love, The Road Between Us debuts for the general public amidst spiking Jew hatred and hatred of Israel, highlighted by the terrorist attack Thursday in Manchester, England, that killed worshippers at a synagogue on Yom Kippur. But Avrich and his team insist they aren't worried about global politics disrupting their film's North American screenings with on-the-ground boycotts or violent protests.
But, that's the world we're living in, and I think people are used to it. It's not pleasant. However, we feel that hopefully our community and other communities send a message by supporting this film, being defiant.
I'm Ellin Bessner, and this is what Jewish Canada sounds like for Friday, October 3rd, 2025. Welcome to North Star, a podcast of the Canadian Jewish News, made possible thanks to the support of the Ira Gluskin and Maxine Granovsky-Gluskin Charitable Foundation. Barry Avrich and Mark Selby, his producer, will be keeping their eye on the box office sales for their film when it opens in North America for a week in 15 Canadian cities so far, only until October 9th, unless there's public demand to extend it. It plays in Israel next week. Down the road, after the film's accountants total up the returns, they say the profits will go to help the location where the film's action took place, Nahal Oz Kibbutz, where terrorists killed 16 residents and kidnapped 8 others. So what's it been like for the pair to go through all the international drama with the Toronto Film Festival and the outpouring of community support that came in to convince TIFF's CEO to apologize publicly for the mistake he made and the hurt it caused the Jewish community? Are Avrich and Selby over it? Well, yes and no. Meanwhile, while screenings of their films start, it appears the main character's story may well have a second life, partly thanks to the creators of Fauda. So to find out more, Barry Avrich and Mark Selby join me now with some behind-the-scenes takes on their own long road. Nice to have you.
Thank you so much. Excited to be here.
Congratulations. We've covered, of course, the whole story. But before we get into how has it been for you, I want to talk about the date of the opening. Because October 3rd is also the Taylor Swift opening for her movie.
Well, both films are going to attract a very similar audience, we feel. And so we hope people make a double feature out of it.
I wasn't going to go there because everyone ships, Barbie, Oppenheimer, whatever. But I wasn't going to do that. It doesn't feel right. But I did want to talk to you about the opening weekend. What was the reason you picked October 3rd?
Well, I think a couple of things. One is that, we were coming out of such an extraordinary debate about the film in the film festival, out of the film festival, back in, tremendous reaction to the film. And so we wanted to certainly take advantage of the momentum. There isn't anywhere where Mark and I are going today where people aren't talking about the film. So that's been amazing. And so we wanted to, capture that heat. And then, certainly the proximity to October 7th. And if we went after, there's never the right time. All kinds of other films are opening at the same time. The fall is a very busy qualifying time for awards and films opening and generally. So we just basically said, you can come up with a million reasons of when to open, when not to open, and we just said, fine, let's do it. It's a moment. Everybody's talking about it. Let's rock and roll.
I worry about the protesters. Mark, I remember you said at the opening screening of TIFF, the first public screening, thank you all for taking the risk to be here with us today. You said that to the audience, and there were protesters outside, and it was really unpleasant. Are you at all worried about these films in sort of protected areas getting interrupted, boycotted, even worse? And what do you know about that?
Boycotted. Look, the word boycott. If you don't want to see the film, don't see the film. Anybody who's protested the film to date hasn't seen it. So, their opinion about the film is irrelevant to us. Cineplex and wherever this film will be seen is providing security. So there's no reason why people should feel uncomfortable. The noise on the opening on September 10th, where the film festival and others felt, oh my God, it's going to be, there ended up being under 30 protesters there. And they were noisy. They were not violent. The police in Toronto did an extraordinary job in making everybody that walked into Roy Thompson Hall feel safe. There were extra safety measures. That's the world you live in. You make reference to Taylor Swift. If you go to a Taylor Swift concert or a Lady Gaga concert, you're going through the same juggernaut to get in. It won't be the same at a Cineplex theater in Canada or wherever you're going to see the film. And seeing that this film is not political, it's emotional, it's a family, it's a story.
I want to go down into the actual film and some nitty-gritty quick questions because I've been curious. When you first sat down with the general and his wife and the family, they're not professional actors, right? Although they've been in the public eye. First of all, how much did you have to coach them through this process of being on film?
Well, I look, before I decided to do it, I spent a lot of time with Noam Tibon specifically to find out whether or not he can tell a story. I've been down this road with many, many, many films where, and as is Mark, of people that he's laughing because he's thinking of one, of where, the heroines of the film are just not good film. They're not Hollywood. They're not good TV.
Do tell. I'm dying to know what it is. Okay.
But Noam, I did a lot of Zooms and a lot of calls with him in prep for this to get a sense of, how much work was it going to be. We knew that with he could take direction. He was in the military. We knew he knew his story, but was he a good storyteller? And certainly watching him on 60 Minutes and watching him on certain other interviews before we began, and again, some 30 Zoom calls before we arrived in Israel, I got a sense of that, I could direct him. We were very organized going down there, Ellin, in the days that we had, in a military way, organized from number of cameras to shoot days to the time that we had with him, because I knew he would appreciate that. If we kept him waiting, then we'd lose focus. And so I didn't have to prep him or coach him at all. He was completely comfortable with a large film crew, multiple cameras, and what I wanted to achieve. But at the end of every long day, he would say, okay, what's tomorrow? What are we doing? What do I need to know? What are you looking for the cameras? What's the message? He was very, very on it. And, Amir and Gally, made for this business in a lot of ways. I mean, she's an acclaimed author. She was a professor in residence, I think, at Penn State. She understands storytelling. Amir is a journalist. His wife is a social worker. They're people with empathy and emotion, and I didn't have to coach them at all. It wouldn't have worked. I had to coach myself because sitting there and hearing their stories, I lost it time and time again where I didn't want them to see me uh, lose it, be emotional. There was one moment when we were filming Sharon, the woman whose husband is
Florentino.
yes, right outside her house on the kibbutz, and she talks about that, and then her little girl is floating around Mark and floating around me, looking at the cameras and the mics, and I looked at her and I looked at Sharon, who had talked about losing her losing her husband and leaving her a widow of 3 kids. I had to leave the room. I couldn't, as a father of a daughter, I couldn't even compute it. So, it was me and they were Sharon was tough. They're all tough. Israelis are tough. But I completely lost it. And I had not been emotional from that day until walking out on the stage of Roy Thompson Hall that night, that afternoon. So it was something. But they were all amazing to work with.
You talked about how they got it and they knew what to do. Did you have any agreement that there was things that they weren't going to be in the film that you wished could have been, like that was completely off limits?
No,
No?
no, nothing like that. I mean, you always overshoot. I mean, you wind up with hours and hours and hours of footage, and you want to cut it down to a manageable length. So things do get left out, but things that were left out were really it was to make the story as concise and as driven as possible.
So what are you going to do with all that stuff? Because I'm asking because I know I read the creators of Fauda are putting together a drama movie about the same
Yeah,
story, and the Cibons are consultants. What?
Correct. There is a scripted feature that's been written. There's a director assigned to it. I don't think that's public, but they do plan to shoot a scripted feature. And the producer of that scripted feature flew to Toronto himself to see the reaction to this film and was completely blown away and said to me at dinner after, he said, I just, I was hoping it wouldn't be great. And I was hoping it would be great. And I understood that because it's a fun story that we haven't talked about from a media at all. So a scoop in that when we approached Noam to make this film, they were in the process of negotiating the scripted feature and did not want to talk about a documentary. And it was up to me and Mark to convince them that a documentary is not a conflict and not competitive. It only, I think, keeps the brand going and alive. And so I had to really convince these producers of the scripted feature that will be made that don't worry about us. And our condition in moving forward was that we would release the documentary before the scripted version, which was like, no problem. Mark and I work way fast. Your scripted version will take, from the time we started this, will take 3 years. We'll be done in 8 months. We will have a premiere at Toronto, which we didn't take for granted, but we were hoping. Yeah, there was, in terms of what we do with all this footage, I'm hoping, we'll probably donate it to some kind of a museum or archive so that people can study Noam's interview at length, because there's 20 hours of it minimum, and Galley and anybody else we interviewed for this film. So it should be seen.
Did you pay them to be in? Did they get paid or any royalties? How does that work for your participating in your documentary?
No, there was an option right to their story, very, very minimal to basically, and what that was, and nobody getting rich here on a documentary, that basically said it was an intent, a promise of intent, a letter of intent that we will make this, which moves us to the front of the line versus anyone else. No royalties beyond that, no profit participation. In fact, it's our intention, if we do make any money on this film, that money goes to the kibbutz.
Please elaborate.
If you've been there, this is a community that's in need of life again. If you've walked through there, and I mean, Nakalos and there, when we were filming there, ghost town and upsetting. So whatever we can do to help rebuild it, we will do. The film is going to open in Israel on October 9th at the Haifa Film Festival. We're very excited about, the reaction to the film then.
Are you going to be there?
I intend to be, yeah.
That is a beautiful gesture, and to put the proceeds back into Israel, because then people's tickets will help the box office, will help that too. So.
Correct.
Ever since October 7th, 2023, Muslim and Jewish communities in Canada have been torn apart.
I've known you for 20 years. You've been at my house for Shabbat supper, I don't know how many times. And for 1 second, you can't put down your friend and just hold my hand?
We're fed a constant stream of Jews and Muslims talking at each other, about each other, but rarely do we hear them talking to each other.
There was, why are you doing this? What's the benefit of doing this?
This podcast aims to do something different. I'm Avi Feingold, a rabbi and a writer with the Canadian Jewish News.
I'm Yafa Sakeja, a Canadian-Palestinian entrepreneur and volunteer with the Canadian Friends of Standing Together.
We're sitting down with Jews and Muslims, Israelis and Palestinians from coast to coast and across the political divide, having difficult conversations in good faith.
We are not the Israeli government. Palestinians are not Hamas.
This is the place where we're both supposed to end up, Israeli and Palestinian, Arab and Jewish.
Subscribe to In Good Faith, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Many times you both have said that the community had your back and I'm talking about the Jewish community, but also not just Jewish people, for getting this film back and then supporting it. How much of a role are you aware of that the sort of public voting helped push you over towards winning the documentary People's Choice?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, the People's Choice Award, the Toronto Film Festival is a large, very, very well-oiled machine. The voting is tied to IP addresses, and they track everything. So yes, Mark and I received hundreds and hundreds of emails from people that said, I voted, who might not necessarily had seen the film. The film festival, again, goes through every vote. You cannot rig the system.
All the tickets are connected through Ticketmaster, so they know which email addresses were used to purchase tickets or who received tickets. And if a film gets 10,000 votes, I'm making it up, and our capacity at Roy Thompson Hall was 1,800 people, well, they know there's clearly a campaign going on. So TIFF works based on percentages. This way, films that are playing at a smaller venue have as much of a chance of winning the People's Choice as a film that plays a larger venue like ours did. Thank goodness. But it does level the playing field significantly the way that they do it.
And I think, Ellin, however, we were, humbled by the reaction, by people wanting to vote, wanting to send that message. And again, certainly during that period of the film being withdrawn from the festival, the reaction from the community, and that's where we did say thank you for having our back. When Mark and I walked down to the stage at Roy Thompson Hall and 1,800 people stood up, I get emotional thinking about it. It left me speechless, and that's when I said I'll never forget these people, you people, the people in the dark, who literally, supported this film and said to the film festival, we will not be erased.
I also recently saw, and maybe you have too, another campaign on social media in Jewish circles to buy up as many tickets and sell out so that it could be longer in the cinemas before, I guess it's going to streaming, I'm not sure.
For now, it's a week. I think if the film is successful, it could be extended longer. It's wonderful if people want to buy out the theaters, but it would be even more wonderful if those tickets go to friends, allies, people outside the Jewish community as well, so that we're amplifying this story to people more than just the Jews who are already very supportive and which we're grateful for.
It's called show business for a reason. So the business of this weekend. And I'm hoping that, our great friends at Cineplex and Landmark in Canada recognize that, it's a weekend. There's a lot going on. Every theater will be assessed and the box office will be assessed. And so we hope that it can have a life. We're hoping that Cineplex and Landmark are as charitable and say, let this film build an audience. But
Let my film go, yeah.
Let my film go. It's a tough business. If they're,
Because it's only till the 9th I saw when I tried to buy tickets so far.
We'll see.
After going through this experience, how would you describe your relationship now with TIFF? Where are you at with this?
Well, the Toronto Film Festival, I've had a very, very long relationship with the festival and Dusty Cole, my mentor, who was a co-founder of the film festival, and he's been gone for 18 years. I feel very, very connected to the festival, which made them withdrawing it a tough road and a tough wound for me to get over. As a filmmaker, both Mark and I are used to submitting films to festivals and not getting in. I never took it for granted that we would get into the Toronto Film Festival. I think what was tough here was that we got in and when we weren't it. As far as the relationship going forward, the Toronto Film Festival remains a very, very important film festival to filmmakers. Many people said, Ellin, to us that, after they had come back and said, we want to put the film in, many said to us, don't go back, rent your own theaters. That wasn't a victory to rent my own theaters. If they weren't going to take it, then yes, I always said to Noam Thibon, don't cancel your ticket, you're coming. We'll rent the theater if we have to. Certainly, pushing the film festival to put it back in was important. My relationship going forward with them, I think there's work to be done in terms of the film festival looking at programming, equitable programming, the balance of programming, how films from any community are properly programmed. Is the programming programmers, are they properly vetted and schooled and equipped? Is there a balance in programming? So I hope that that's really explored with them going forward, because political films, films that come from sensitive regions of the world are going to keep coming. That's the world we live in. So I'm hoping the film festival looks at this and says, all right, how do we avoid what happened this year so we don't get into that situation? You can't avoid protests, and people have the freedom to protest and go ahead. Gesundter hate, as my grandfather used to say, protest if you want. Do it quietly and in a nonviolent way. So, to answer your question in a long way, my relationship with TIFF is fine. The world is watching, and I hope they govern themselves accordingly going forward.
I truly appreciated what Cameron said on stage at Roy Thompson Hall at our premiere. It was a very classy move. It could not have been an easy thing to do. He did the right thing, and he apologized to the Jewish community. I thought that was wonderful. And when we won our People's Choice Award on the last day of the festival, I made a point, and Barry as well, of thanking the TIFF staff who were supportive of us, the people that made us, as filmmakers, especially once the film was reinstated, who made us feel like we belonged. I think that the programming staff that, want to be boycotting films with films from Israel, even though ours is not an Israeli film. This is a Canadian film. It's just the subject matter is Israeli. But people who want to boycott films from Israel, or artists or athletes, I mean, that's not going to achieve world peace, number one. And number two is generally it's the artists who are speaking truth to power. And I think it's important. Those are the voices you want to hear from. So anyone who tries to silence Jewish voices, Israeli voices, is really going down the wrong path.
I don't have this enormous axe to grind with Cameron Bailey. Cameron invited the film. He called Mark and I and said, you are Canadian filmmakers. I'm proud of the film, and it's an important story to be told. That was the initial invitation. What ultimately led to him and the pressure that he was under internally, or whom whatever happened internally, what led him to withdraw the film was a mistake, and he acknowledged it, and the film was invited back.
You mentioned politics. You mentioned it a while back. I looked at some of the reviews that have come out in the last few days, IMDb and others, San Francisco Chronicle. I'm sure you're getting them as well.
I only read reviews that are positive.
A lot of people, including on the stage the night that it was shown, they said, of course there's politics. How you have a film festival when everything is so political in the world at the moment. The context is politics. So I'm wondering how you've been able to keep that line.
But you can write whatever you want. I mean, a newspaper recently wrote that, so much is left unsaid about October 7th in the film. Go make your own movie then. In 96 minutes, or whatever the running time of this film is, we elected to tell a story about Noam Thibon. Anything else pulls focus from what he did on that day.
Said this to Barry before, but calling The Road Between Us an October 7th film is like calling Come From Away a 9/11 musical. That's not what the show is about. It's set on that day and then the days that follow. And our documentary is set on October 7th. But that's not at all what the film is about. And it minimizes the story, and it amplifies, I think, the wrong message.
We made the conscious decision as well to let Gally, Noam's wife, make have the last word in the film, and that is a political comment, a political statement about Israel failing its own people on that day and things that have to change. We believe that. And we specifically, had that in there as a voice to say, what does the road forward look like?
Did she not also say that the Israeli response in Gaza was revenge for being humiliated?
Her exact words that it's beginning to look like, something that's wrapped in vengeance. I don't live there, and it's for her to say.
Fair enough. You talked about these boycotts and the Hollywood A-listers that I'm sure you all know that they've signed these letters condemning they don't want to work with Israeli or Jewish producers or filmmakers. Is this BDS boycott of Israeli, Jewish, and anything coming out of that area affecting what you can do going forward in your own production careers?
As far as I'm considered as a veteran documentarian, I will keep looking for the best and most interesting stories to tell. I'm not focused on the noise. I don't like it, but I'm not focused on the noise.
I think it will affect us only in as much as if somebody looks at our next film and says, oh, these are the producers of The Road Between Us. I'm holding film festivals to a very high standard, a standard that I don't even think news organizations are held to these days, which is you have to remain completely agnostic. If you are a true film festival that purports to show stories and empower a dialogue through the power of cinema, you need to show stories from all over the world. You have to show stories from regions that are much more sensitive than others.
Listen, thank you so much for being here with the CJN.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
And that's what Jewish Canada sounds like for this episode of North Star, made possible thanks to the Ira Gluskin and Maxine Granovsky-Gluskin Charitable Foundation. North Star is produced by Andrea Varsany and Zachary Judah Kaufman. Our executive producer is Michael Freeman, and the theme is by Brett Higgins. Thanks for listening.